Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome back to our Five Nights at Freddy's character concept series. So in today's video we are starting the first episode in our new themed pizzeria, and this new establishment is the Insect Kingdom Pizzeria. So for our first character we're looking into Bella B. So we'll go into Bella's location, her gameplay mechanics, her backstory and all that good stuff as well. As always, I will just say that everything I say in these videos isn't really linked to the overall lore and universe of FNAF. These are just some cool, creepy what-if scenario stories we get to tell, and we hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's video, do be sure to subscribe to GamerTube as it helps out a lot and it is greatly appreciated. It also keeps you up to date with all the videos that we post. Alrighty, well, let's take a look at the character concept of Bella B. So before we get into our character concept, let's first take a look at the other themed Freddy Fazbear pizzerias in the series. So, in our previous videos, we explored the Jungle Pizzeria, the Funtime Farm Pizzeria, and the Water Wonderland Pizzeria. The Jungle Pizzeria was home to Lester the Lizard, Penny the Panther, Gordo the Gorilla, Parker the Parrot, and Leroy the Lion. The Funtime Farm was home to Henry the Horse, Daisy the Dairy Cow, Oinky the Pig, Bruce the Goose, and Duke the Dog. And then the Water Wonderland was home to Sam the Shark, Sid the Squid, Lucy the Anglerfish, Barry the Turtle, and lastly, Eddie the Eel. All of these frightening animatronics had their own disturbing backstory that took place at their distinct pizzerias. But now, across the country, in a new state, stood another branch in the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria family. This was of course the Freddy Fazbear Insect Kingdom. This was an insect-themed pizzeria with multiple bug and garden-themed attractions. Of course, there was the main stage where all the animatronic characters would perform. Then there was also the main seating area in front of the stage where the guests would have their birthday parties. Apart from these two areas, there were other insect and plant-themed locations in the Insect Kingdom Pizzeria, but eventually we'll reveal them in future videos. So now, let's get into our first insect character. And this character is Bella B. So Bella was a bumblebee themed animatronic. The engineers designed her after the humble old bumblebee. They were given a bright yellow colour scheme with the famous black stripes and black coloured limbs. Bella had magenta coloured eyes, just like another famous character in the series. Bella was also given thin translucent plastic wings on her back. The engineers toyed around with the idea of giving Bella a stinger, but Fazbear Entertainment opted to go for a much more friendlier approach. But the engineers didn't remove the stinger, they simply retracted it into her body and covered it up. So Bella's role on stage was that of the maraca player. She would play up on stage with all the other band members while they sing their jolly tunes. Bella's maracas were a hand-me-down from an older establishment. They used to belong to another character, but Bella now inherited the old pair of rattlers. The funny thing was, all these animatronics shared similar character traits to the older Fazbear characters. Bella actually shared similar traits to the original Fazbear Pizzeria character, Chica. More specifically, Chica's obsession with food. So, being a bumblebee, Bella had an obsession with candy and other sweet treats. Like every other Fazbear pizzeria, in addition to serving piping hot pizza and ice-cold sodas, they also had a large amount of candy on hand for all the children. After all, a kid's birthday party wouldn't be complete without candy. Here and there, employees have reported spotting Bella rummaging through the candy and shoving handfuls of it in her mouth. They initially thought the kids were putting candy in her mouth, but it turns out it was Bella sneaking a treat or two. The employees would often try to catch Bella in the supply room, but they didn't have much luck. Bella would always be able to hide at the right time. So apart from Bella eating things she shouldn't, overall she was quite the well-behaved animatronic. Well, by Fazbear standards, that is. So now let's get into the unfortunate incidents and mishaps that surrounded the character of Bella B. So some time ago, Bella used to be accompanied by a little supporting character. This character was Honeycomb. A cute little honeycomb character that Bella used to carry around on a tray and present to all the birthday guests. Honeycomb would be surrounded by candy and all the children would take a piece here and there as Honey looked happy and made some cheerful chirps and sounds. But one day, Honeycomb disappeared. The Fazbear employees couldn't find them anywhere. And what's even weirder is that ever since Honeycomb disappeared, Bella has looked worse for wear. It seemed that her jaw was stuck in the open position and all her mechanical joints were leaking an excess amount of oil, causing her colourful skin to become all stained and dirty. Honeycomb's disappearance and Bella's strange behaviour and appearance started around the time when the manager locked up the candy supply room. The manager had noticed the supply stock levels were much lower than they've ever been. It seems that someone has been stealing boxes of candy and taking them home. Not ruling anyone out, the manager decided to just instead lock up the supply room. Now of course, while Bella was working, she would never eat any of the candy. But when she and her fellow animatronics would be in their free roam setting at the end of the night, that's when she'd typically sneak into the supply room. But now that the supply room was locked up, Bella can no longer satisfy her sweet cravings. Over time, this began to drive her mad. Night after night, her little honeycomb companion looked sweeter and sweeter. It was only a matter of time before Bella would do the unthinkable. Ever since she committed this horrible act, her outside appearance was never the same. The manager noticed Bella was looking worse for wear and ordered the maintenance repair worker to come pay her a visit. So now we come to our first gameplay segment. The player would take the role of the repair worker. They needed to open Bella up and see what was troubling her inside. So the player would have to be extra careful when accessing Bella's internal mechanics. They don't want to move hastily and accidentally activate Bella whilst they were right in front of her. First, the player would need to slowly remove her bottom jaw. As soon as it comes off, a stream of ants starts pouring out of her face. There's so many of them. Where are they coming from? They wouldn't be able to access Bella's chest plate latch with all these little critters crawling around. So the player needs to grab a can of pesticide and exterminate all the ants. The player needs to spray the pesticide in small bursts, as an excess amount of this poison in the small repair room would prove to be quite deadly. Once the ants have been taken care of, then they can finally access the latch inside the back of her face. After they've popped the latch, they can then remove the chest plate. That's when they realised where all these ants were coming from. Multiple smushed up and melted candy bars were lodged inside of Bella's inner workings. These candy bars look like they've been here for quite a while. The player needs to carefully remove all of these melted candy bars without touching Bella's delicate hardware. If they accidentally touch anything they're not supposed to, they'd end the segment with a frightening jump scare. After completing this task, that's when the repair worker noticed something quite strange. It was Honeycomb. They were smashed up and crammed inside of Bella's endoskeleton. How did it get in there? Well, this answers the question to what happened to poor Honeycomb. After they've removed what was left of Honeycomb, they then discarded them and closed Bella back up. The repair worker decided not to tell management what has happened to Bella's little friend, just in case they get the blame or found themselves in trouble for any reason. So now let's take a look at the core gameplay segment of the video. The player now takes on the role of the security guard. This security guard in particular has worked for one of the older pizzerias in the past. They had an unfortunate run-in with some troublesome intruders and had to take a few years off. But now they live in a different state and they're ready to get back to work at an entirely new Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. So our friendly security guard also had a sweet tooth of their own. They liked the occasional candy bar here and there. They would unlock the storage room and take a couple of bars for themselves to eat during their shift. Bella saw the security guard walking back with all this candy and she wanted it all for herself. She'd snatch this candy from the security guard no matter what it takes. So, as always in our previous videos, the gameplay is quite similar to the classic formula of FNAF with observation and management. We return back to the classic design of the security office. But the security office had some subtle differences. So like always, there was the left and right doors, and the lights to illuminate the characters. But the difference with this office was the two air vents on either side next to the doors. Some of the characters would be able to climb through and try to enter this room. The player couldn't close these vents remotely, but the vents did have a built-in extinguisher in case of any fires. So when the players see any characters sneaking in, they can blast them with a burst from the extinguisher. There's also a bunch more gameplay mechanics in the office that we'll be exploring in the future videos. So as the player mans their station, they need to keep an eye out for Bella. More specifically, they need to keep an ear out for her as well. So Bella would usually approach from the right hand side. The player would need to listen out for Bella's specific sound when she's approaching the doors. This would be a slight buzzing sound to let them know Bella was approaching. As they see her, they need to shut the doors immediately. The player can look out for Bella's wings through the window to see if she's still there or not. When the player opens the door again, they'd have to be on high alert. In some instances, Bella will still be there without the player knowing. Bella would be able to hang from the ceiling and peer inside the room. When this happens, the player has to stay perfectly still. They can't press any buttons or look away. After a little while, she'll move her head and the player can continue to look out for the other characters. Whilst looking at the cameras, they can also track Bella's movements. Bella would usually start the night off on the stage. She would then slowly make her way to the right hand door. In the last few nights of the game, Bella's stinger would extend and pierce through her skin. If this happens, she'd be able to sting the cameras and temporarily disable them. So the player needs to do their best to juggle all the moves that Bella will throw at them. If they can't keep up, then they'll be greeted with a classic FNAF jump scare. So I think Bella B is an interesting first addition to our Insect Kingdom pizzeria. She would definitely prove to be quite the challenge for the player and would offer her fair share of jump scares as well. Alrighty everyone, well that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. As always, leave a comment down below what you thought of Bella B and also whatever characters you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty everyone, well until the next video, I'll catch you later, bye.